Amber 3, Amber 1, do you see them? Over?
Amber 1, negative Amber 1. I can barely see over that damn field. Over.
Amber 1, I think. Yeah, I got them. Yeah, I see them. Confirming numerous, big, boxy British APCs. Over.
Amber March, Amber 1, can I get a check on frequency 6, LCOM, how copy?
Amber 1, testing frequency 6, Wilco. How's this? The signal should be close enough.
Hello? Okay, yeah, I hear you guys.
Yeah, that's good, I got you coming in. Thank God for these laser pointer Fisher-Price radios. Jesus, look at the friggin' size of them. And they give us shit for being too goddamn big.
Look at the size of those fucking things. How long do we have to stand here burning fuel with our dicks out?
Not too much longer. Now that the Ingerlish caught up finally. I bet in cargo mode the Max is smaller than that thing.
Yeah, you would just like fold the arms in a bit. I think it's definitely smaller.
You know, if you load those on a transport plane, they'd fall through the cargo floor, right?
Bullshit, really? But like, we could be fucking fully armed and still fit a galaxy? How are those things worse?
It's a fucking brick, that's how. They can fit on a galaxy, but only just. A Max without the 120 is lighter than them by a ton or so, I think. They're basically as heavy as... Shit, looks like they found another one. The Bronze Age at its peak, in a world of interconnected states ebbing and flowing across this land. So many expanded and collapsed, conquered and then were conquered. The flowing waters of these great rivers carving out a living road of green through the dead, hot sand. Sumeria held it. The Egyptians would control it for periods, pushing up from their control of South Canaan. The Mitanni surged over the land. The Babylonians would encroach on them, and from the north the Hittites later expanded. There was also Assyria, and the Kassites as well. Sargon of Akkadian Empire's height, Hammurabi of Babylonia and his famed first legal code. This land is ancient. These rivers moved the lifeblood of copper ore and farming up and down their lengths. The Orontes and the Nile, the Tigris and the Euphrates, conduits of so much human history. In this middle land of Syria, always doomed to be a conflict zone, the great empires pushed out their influence. The largest confrontation, the Hittites in the north and Egypt in the south, came to a head here as well. The Canaanite cities were stuck in the middle, a valuable prize. There was trade, there was negotiations. But eventually, in this place, these two superpowers would inevitably have to confront one another. At the Battle of Kadesh, they did. 5,000 to 6,000 chariots, perhaps as many as 100,000 men. The battle was immense. Nothing of its scale had ever been fought before. It is also one of the earliest and best where we have the tactics and movements of the formations recorded. Ambushes, flanks, misinformation, and counterattack all played into its scope. But strangely enough, Kadesh was a draw. Though Egypt did not capture Kadesh, its goal, it had routed the Hittites. And they had defended Kadesh, but had not broken Egypt's power. Despite the vast scale and bloodshed, neither side could truly act supremely victorious. And this was perhaps the form of empires in their prime, able to suffer and deal massive blows. The Battle of Kadesh in 1274 BC was mightily impressive, but something was coming. Something terrible. With this battle, the Hittite-Egyptian wars and the Hittite and Egyptian empires marked a form of peak. Not after this would they face each other in this way ever again. What was coming would cut them down from this point, and they were perhaps lucky. For many of the smaller kingdoms and empires, only doom lay ahead, for in the background, an invisible clock began counting down. I was glad to be off that fucking base. To be gone. To be out. I'd unwound just a good bit. The tension was still there. It just felt all the more manageable somehow. I don't know what really changed since the battle at Road O-8. But movement, forward movement, felt really good. So here we were, pushing up the Euphrates, through the crossroads of empires, the cradle of civilization.
Fuck! I'm out of sunflower seeds again.
This is Lodestone to all Terranus units. The lagging UN MOSAF elements have assembled at the 34th objective line. Ajax, Bronco, Card Pack, advance to the 35th as planned. We've got engineers clearing the highway of obstacles. Beyond the objective line, we'll meet up with the YPG elements on the northeastern bank of the Euphrates. Over. Amber March, advance and maintain screening position.
Lodestone, Amber March, Wilco, out. Amber March, Amber 2, left flank, Amber 3, right flank, maintain combat, Chevron, advance, over.
Amber 1, received Amber 2, advancing out.
Amber 1, received Amber 3, advancing out.
This is Lodestone. Amber March, maintain current heading. 2nd Battalion's maneuvering around some canals. Slow your victors a bit and keep formation.
Lodestone, Amber March, proceeding to objective line, received, slowing advance, out. Amber March, drop speed slightly, we're a bit ahead, and we need to wait for the Tyrannus link-ups. Cyan March, District, Epsilon, and Fellowship still need to close the formation a bit, over.
Amber 1, received Amber 2, adjusting speed.
Amber 1, this is Amber 3. Roger, adjusting speed.
Amber March, can you confirm visuals, any visuals on any unknowns, any persons whatsoever in the AO?
Negative, Amber 1. Nobody's out here. I don't like it.
Amber 1, I think I have, visuals on... No, that's a bush.
Lodestone to Amber March. Epsilon has drifted across a canal, took a wrong turn and has lost the main road. Dispatch Amber 3 to locate a crossing and get them back into position.
Lodestone, Amber 1, interrogative, is Epsilon off comms? Are they, lost? Can't Cyan locate them, over?
Amber 1, this is Lodestone. Yeah, they got lost. There's no turnoff until line 37. You're closer at the moment than any of Cyan. They're screening our right flank.
Lodestone, Amber 1, Wilco dispatching Amber 3. Amber 3, just try to get a solid-looking bridge in view. Try not to backtrack them too much. We're already a bit behind schedule here.
Amber 1, Received. I'll see what I can find. Lodestone, this is Amber 3. Moving to find Epsilon, a bridge over.
It might be hard, there's only footbridges around here. And it's like a river, right?
Nowadays, the water level's dropped a lot. There's a lot of dams upriver. The bad droughts and the global warming probably don't fucking help. This river's the only reason we get to see green for fucking change.
Low enough for Epsilon to ford.
Shit, man, if it's really bad, he can just carry them over one at a time.
Or they can just build a fucking bridge on him. San has all the fuck-up squads as usual.
Don't be too harsh. We're clearing 100 kilometers a day of twisting, oxbow-ridden Mesopotamian dirt fucking roads. It's just inevitable someone will get lost at some point.
Have you ever lost, Ajax? Have I ever lost, Bronco?
No, but you lost 5 Tex-Mex MREs at Mustahab. Cause you bet Cyan too, but he did manage to 120 a fucking drone out of the air.
Probably use the fucking fire track rate.
This is Lodestone. Amber 1, Amber 2, proceed with 1st Battalion to the 35th line. Amber 3 and 2nd Battalion will reposition there.
Lodestone, Amber March, Wilco, out.
Hey, what were those booms earlier?
Oh yeah, that. Those are road clearing teams. Getting rid of the IEDs.
How, with C4 or with Mark 19s?
No, they have a jammer system. It cost a ton of cash and it's still pretty super secret. It's probably easier to read about the HIMAX engines than it is that thing. It sends a false positive or just blocks the Nokia phones that are wired into those fucking things. It's mounted on one of the engineer vehicles.
Right. All the bombs are waiting for a call signal, right? I wonder if people will really come back here if we get rid of all that shit.
Listen, all I know is that to our west is Assad, a man who eats children roasted alive for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and to our east lies the gumdrop, munchkin, rainbow, marshmallow land of the Kurds.
Bullshit.
Yeah, it's bullshit. The Kurds are alright, but at this point, if we help them roll into Damascus, it would be a fucking bloodbath. And the Kurds and Assad have basically signed a ceasefire treaty at this point anyways.
If that's true, then why are we pushing up the Euphrates like this?
To mark out a UN MOSAF safe zone between the two sides. A humanitarian corridor. But in truth, it would also probably be because of what's happening north of here. I wonder how Amber 3 is doing.
Okay, yeah, I'm holding it. Okay, yeah, start coming across. Slowly now.
Amber 2, are you hearing that? It sounds like blasts coming from the west. By that town?
That town over there? I'm picking up smoke on the thermals.
Lodestone, this is Amber 1. I have visuals and radar track on at least one military helicopter. Make appears to be Russian, possibly a Hind, over.
Lodestone, this is Amber 2. I also have visual. It's heading towards the large village at 270, 2 clicks. It's strafing the area with rockets.
This is Lodestone, Amber March. Can you identify the enemy helo? Have you been engaged?
We have not been engaged. I say again, we have not been engaged. The helo is focusing on the town. Over.
Lodestone, it definitely has rockets. It has rocket pods mounted on the wings. It's also ignoring us. It came very close with one of its attacks. I don't think it's possible they missed the size of our formation. What do you think it is? Assad trying to big dick us?
Maybe, but if it's not Assad, it's the fucking Russians.
Jesus fuck.
Lodestone, this is Amber 2. I've now got fixed wing strikes on the town. How close is it out there? Is that within our AO? How many hostiles need to be in that town?
This is Lodestone, Amber March. It's just outside the humanitarian corridor we outlined. Do not engage the air units. I repeat, do not engage.
Lodestone, Amber March, Wilco, we will keep our guns cold, over. Amber 2, do not take your fucking eyes off those air units and get ready to shit out some countermeasures. Warm up your surface-to-air missiles, but keep them on safe and be ready just in case.
Amber 1, Wilco. The Russians have done this before. Dropped air support very fucking danger close to US units here. I don't want anybody here to buy the farm.
Hey, so, when they did this before, was there quite as many Bufo around? UN Mosaf is a good deal larger, right?
Nah, no there was not. From our intel, that town had only, 2 dozen potential Daesh on it tops? They're fucking leveling it to show us they mean business, and they don't give a rat's shitty ass about our humanitarian exclusion zone.
I think you might be right about that.
Amber March, we're getting reports of explosions and gunfire from a village on the east bank. It's very near our last given location for the YPG forces as the 35th line. We've lost radio contact with the YPG in that town. We're also getting unconfirmed reports of possible Russian air in the vicinity. We need Amber March's radar to scan for hostile air and discern the condition of the YPG. There are no bridges in the area. Your HIMAX is the only victor that can afford the Rebirth this time. Exercise extreme caution. Radio for green light before engaging. We don't want to fuck up and start a war. I'm also restricting the use of your AUG's jump capabilities. With the air attacks nearby, we need to avoid startling the Assad loyalist air units to the west. How copy?
Lodestone, Amber 1 and Amber March moving to discern condition of YPG on East Bank. Aerial boosting and movement restricted. Radio before guns free. Aware of hostile terrain. Wilco, over. Amber March, maintain 500 meter dispersion. ROE is radio before guns free. We will forward as possible. Amber 2, your machine has the surface-to-air missiles. Keep them on standby. Amber 3, what is your position? Over.
Amber 1, I'm heading north on the eastern bank. I see the smoke complying with the ROE. Moving to discern. Over.
Amber 1, Amber 2, proceeding to forward past the Oxbow around the north of the village.
In my head, it wasn't adding up. The northeast bank was Kurdish. The southwest was Assad and the Russians. Since the Turkish had invaded, both sides had been at peace. This was very suspicious. I didn't know what was going on. As I came to the burning town, I had a very deep, bad gut feeling. A feeling that the only thing that would make sense to answer these questions would be a very unpleasant answer. And that was when I saw it. We stared at each other through the carnage of the village. My mind raced. That thing, that kind of machine. What was it doing here? How could it be here? My humanoid machine was supposed to help this world. Why was it there? Why was it only making things worse? In order to understand why Syria came so close to peace and failed, one must understand the context of intervention and the three men who essentially caused this. The first is Vladimir Putin. Of those involved, Putin's role is arguably the simplest. Syria had been a Russian resource and military asset. The Arab Spring had not deposed Assad, so Putin would supply air support, his ships and submarines would use Syrian ports, and his helicopters would help fight the loyalist forces' fights. What he wanted was the reformation of Assad's Syria, and to return to accessing the Syrian natural gas and oil reserves. It was thanks to Putin that Assad remained in power. This extended the war and its refugee crisis, but also provided a stabilizing force. The end results can be seen perhaps as good or bad. Assad clung to his position, and in a simpler conflict, maybe he and Putin would provide easy villains, for a simple narrative. However, reality is never quite that easy. The second person lies north. Across the northern border of Syria lies Turkey. For the Turkish ruler Erdogan, the Kurds were an extremist group in the southeast. They attacked and placed bombs. They were terrorists, and they were ethnic separatists. Turkey itself had a long history of attempted coup, where men of singular power would be removed by the military, and democracy would be restored. However, Erdogan's rise to power was more calculated than before. He had survived the coup that would have deposed him in 2016, and after he executed the conspirators, he consolidated authoritarian power within Turkey. During the Cold War, Turkey had been a valuable NATO ally. It was in Turkey, in 1959, furthest east of the NATO members, that the Jupiter missiles had been placed. It was these missiles which would be a large part of why Russia attempted to place its own missiles in Cuba, triggering the missile crisis of 1962. But it had been a long time since the Cold War, 30 years, and now Turkey and Erdogan was focused on playing both sides against each other, Russia versus the US, and in the process making many enemies as he worsened the situation within Syria. For such a nationalist, the Kurds were an obstacle to be removed. The growing power of the YPG was one Erdogan eyed with disdain. Turkey had also, by and large, profited immensely from the collapse of Syria into civil war, but those details are best left for later. The final group involved is, of course, the United States. The US had been, in the early 2000s, enthusiastic to attack and invade Iraq and Afghanistan. But after over 10 years, all it found itself left with was a massive debt from those wars and little progress to show for it. This left in America jaded against foreign intervention, wanting to return to some more idealistic isolationist role. Of course, this was a total illusion. America had gotten as large as it had, thanks to its Pax Economica. Whether they liked it or not, they were the world's cowboy. The issue that imploded the Syrian situation was just this. To the American public, Syria looked like yet another confusing, foreign, desert-covered intervention. It looked and sounded like another Iraq or Afghanistan. The reality could not be further from the truth. At the height of Iraq's occupation, the US had some 170,000 troops deployed in order to win the war. But the situation was untenable. Guerrilla warfare abounded, and the US-backed government was corrupt and incompetent. However, not all interventions are alike. In Syria, a mere 1,000 to 2,000 US specialists and soldiers was all that was needed. The Kurds provided a functional, stabilizing local force. The US merely had to support and lock the balance of power between the Turkish and Erdogan, Assad and the Russians, and the Kurds, and the situation would slowly, hopefully, solve itself. So long as the US remained a backer of the YPG, Turkey could not outright move military forces into Syria, merely shell and attack across the border. Turkey had to accept that the US was backing a faction connected to attacks inside its nation, because for the US it was worth it. That is, until the third man had his effects. In 2016, the US happened to elect perhaps the most geopolitically incompetent president in a generation. A man so seemingly self-interested and blind to the ramifications of his political actions, people believed he was mentally impaired rather than accept the existence of such a person. In 2019, with an upcoming election, President Trump attempted to appeal to the American wariness of intervention. He in essence bypassed all his military command and the years-long work in Syria the US had slowly made with the Operation Inherent Resolve, and directly called Erdogan. In a single night, Trump's car dealership approach to politics imploded the progress in Syria, and stole defeat from the jaws of victory. He would pull out the US troops, but more importantly, the geopolitical balance which had almost ended the Syrian war collapsed overnight as well. Turkey had its opportunity. The US showed weakness. It finally invaded northern Syria, and specifically the Kurdish region of Rojava. In perhaps one of the most ironic twists, the US, constantly criticized for its foreign involvement in other nations' conflicts, was demolished from within out of backing perhaps the most justifiable foreign involvement in its contemporary history. With pressure from Turkey, the YPG had to abandon what would have been the final extermination of the Daesh. Prisons filled with extremists were abandoned. ISIL could now rejuvenate its extremist terrors thanks to Turkey. And more directly, in another hypocritical irony, Turkey, long complaining about the US aid to the YPG and its connections to Kurdish extremists in Turkey, subsequently re-employed ex-Daesh extremists as proxy forces in its military invasion of northern Syria. In contest of the three men mentioned, it would ironically be Trump who increased net human suffering, prolonged the war, and made room for the resurgence of the Daesh. This is not to say that Putin and Erdogan were good, but their destructive self-interest and lethal intervention into Syria were far more competent and consistent in contrast. What this showed was that in a singular mistaken decision, a superpower, by order of its one leader, could spell disaster for entire nations and their people. However, in the background of that time, things were getting worse, not better. Disease, climate collapse, and now, military incompetence began to intertwine. An invisible clock began slowly ticking down.